Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with the Haunted Carousel. Chapter 12, Fog Curtain. Joy's eyes flashed rebelliously. "You've got no right to take that attitude, Aunt Selma," she protested. "I've every right," Mrs. Yawley snapped. "Just remember, young lady, I'm your legal guardian. And maybe you better remember what Daddy's will said." Joy's voice trembled with indignation. The thin-lipped woman looked her niece up and down scathingly. "Just what are you referring to?" "According to the lawyer, Mr. Trimble, his will only names you as my temporary guardian," Joy pointed out, holding up the iris. "So don't you think you can stop me forever from seeing the lady who sent this? You may not even remain my guardian until I'm 21. If it was true the redheads had hot tempers, thought Nancy, Joy Trent certainly looks like the right part at this moment. The young girl's cheeks were aflame behind their sprinkling of freckles, and her bright red hair added to her fiery look. "Besides," Joy went on, "it's absurd to have forbidden me to see someone who may be able to tell me about my mother, or help me explain Daddy's riddle. What harm can it do, for goodness sakes, to hear whatever she has to say?" Turning to her friend for support, Joy added, "Don't you agree, Nancy?" Before the teenage sleuth could reply, Selma Yawley rounded up on her. "You keep out of this mystery. You've caused enough trouble already by acting as this wretched woman's messenger." Nancy was not intimidated in the least by Mrs. Yawley's manner. Nevertheless, she thought it's best not to take sides for the moment, even though there was no doubt where her own sympathies lay. "Why not wait and ask me that question tomorrow, Joy?" she suggested with a calm smile. "Perhaps you'll see things in a better perspective then. In the meantime, it's late, and I better get home." It was hard to erase the unpleasant incident from her mind forever. At the dinner table that evening, she told her father what had happened and asked for his opinion on the subject. "What should I have done, Daddy?" "What did you feel like doing?" said Carson Drew, responding to her question with another question. Nancy chuckled. "To be perfectly honest, I thought our aunt was behaving like a stuffy old witch, and I feel like telling Joy to use her own common sense and just do as she pleased. I mean, it was so unreasonable for Mrs. Yawley to forbid Joy to even speak to the woman." Nancy's smile faded as she went uncertainty. "The trouble is, well, I just wasn't sure I had any right to butt in. But what about her father's point of view?" "What do you mean?" inquired Nancy, raising an eyebrow. "Presumably this John Trent must have been a shrewd judge of character to be so successful. Wouldn't he have a good reason for naming his sister to be Joy's guardian?" "Perhaps he had no other choice. She may have been the only other relative he had," said Nancy. "But anyhow, that's just the point, as according to Joy, the family lawyer, Mr. Trimble, said her father's will only named Mrs. Yawley as Joy's temporary guardian, although she might not continue as guardian until Joy was 21. Doesn't that sound as if he wasn't wholly convinced Mrs. Yawley was the best choice?" You may have had something there." Mr. Drew sipped his coffee thoughtfully for a moment. "And you say a lawyer's name is Trimble, eh?" "That would be Fred Trimble, I imagine. I met him in court a few times, not in the bar, so Jane did her. Let me sound out about this, Nancy, and see what he has to say." "Oh, okay. Oh, Daddy, if you could, I'd be grateful." Nancy had just helped Hannah clear the table when Bess and George arrived excitedly. "Oh, Nancy, we're going to have a slumber party on the houseboat. We want you to come." "Please say that you will. It'll be fun," Bess bubbled with enthusiasm and anticipation. "Just the three of us, Nancy," George chimed. "No babysitting tonight. The Custards are staying at my house tonight, and Uncle Bill said we could sleep on the houseboat if we wanted to. What do you say, Mr. Drew?" George appealed to a smiling Carson Drew. "It certainly sounds attractive," he replied. "Sleeping on a river in good weather is very calming." "I couldn't agree more, Dad." Nancy hugged him. "Come on, kids, and I'll throw some things in my overnight bag." Nancy turned and ran upstairs, her two friends trooping after her. In her room, Nancy took a small zipper bag from her closet and folded her nightclothes into it. Then, with George and Bess's help, she collected did a comb brush toiletries from her dressing table. Minutes later, they had said goodbye to Carson Drew and Hannah Gruen, and they were driving off to the marina in Nancy's little blue sports car. The evening had turned sultry rather than expectedly, and by the time they had reached the houseboat, the moon had disappeared behind a bank of clouds. "Gee, I hope it doesn't rain," Bess said plainly. "What's the difference? It'll just be more cozy," George laughed. "Right," Nancy agreed. "Don't worry, Bess. It will be safely docked to the marina." Once on board the houseboat, the girls changed into their night clothes and made cocoa, taking their cups out of the galley and going onto the small open deck. The girls settled themselves in deck chairs and listened to the water gently lapping against the tide. At George's suggestion, they began telling each other ghost stories. As a wispy fog drifted from the river, the stories grew spookier and spookier. Finally, Bess called a halt. "If we don't stop now, I won't be able to go to sleep for bad dreams. Let's go to bed." Giggling, her friends agreed. Going back inside the cabin, they settled down in their bunk beds and one by one dropped off to sleep. Sometime during the night, Nancy awoke with an unpleasant sense of danger. What had awakened her? With a sudden gasp of alarm, she realized that the houseboat was in motion. She could feel the deck swaying to and fro beneath her, far more than would have been the case if the boats were still safe in the sheltered slip of the marina. It must have come loose from the moorings, Nancy realized. "We must be drifting on the river." Springing from her bunk, she pulled up on her robe and slippers and hurried out on the deck. She shivered as the damp night air sent a chill through her body. Thick layers of swirling mist surrounded the houseboat on all sides, and it was impossible to see more than a few farts in any direction. Yet, despite the fog and darkness, there was no longer any doubt in Nancy's mind that the boat had become adrift. If they were still in their berth, a faint, hollowed glow should have been visible from the marina dock lights. As it was not, even a glimmer pierced by the dark, oily fog anywhere she looked. The distant hoot of a foghorn and the muffled clang of a ship's bell reached her ears through the billowing mist. The eerie sounds racked Nancy through a thrill of appreciation. "Oh, what can we do?" she asked herself. The first thing, of course, was to wake Bess and George, and then they better start the engine and try to. Nancy broke off with a sudden cry of fear, and her eyes wide in fright. The high white prow of a good-sized motor cruiser had just loomed through the fog, only a short distance away. The craft was bearing straight down on them. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.